Yeah, I guess that you do have to have a fairly honest look at yourself. It's always easier if you're running two cars and you've got another guy there like Andrew Medici, who's a pretty hot sort of driver. And if Andrew is struggling as well, well, you get to have a bit of a yardstick. But you do think, well, thank goodness I'm half a second faster than Andy's or whatever it might be. But I think all of a sudden when a team starts winning, and you've got the right combination, everyone's confident you're away.
The interesting thing is that because of your position having been so good for so long, I'm sure there aren't too many people you'd actually listen to as regards advice, or not many people would proffer it.
Well, I think a lot of people like to see you floundering occasionally. You can almost see them breathing a sigh of relief that, thank goodness,
Actually, I have a theory about this. You know what a weird country where we don't like tall poppies. We like them for a while, and then we like people to shoot them in their foot. The fact that you've not succeeded for a while is probably actually a good thing in the long run.
I think I'm almost allowed to succeed now.
Yeah.
I'm on that. I've gone over there. I'm back up there.
Yeah, metaphorically, I think it's not bad. I mean, we don't like people to win all the time. I don't know what's wrong with this. I really don't know.
But it is symptomatic of the of Australians, and I think every team notices it. Every sports person notices it.
I'm intrigued, having watched it for years and years and wishing to be out there. And you don't have to mention any names. How do you cheat with the rules? What little tricks cannot you, but a determined driver, do to cheat so that people don't necessarily...
There's a lot of people in any sport that think, and I guess that it is really the pinnacle of professionalism, is that they must see the rules and then bend them as far as they possibly can. Some, of course, go too far, and their own interpretation of them lands them in hot water occasionally.
But in specifics, what sort of things have they done anyway?
Well, in a turbocharged car, petrol. Before they had a fuel which was what they call a control fuel, which means every person's got to use the same type of fuel. You made your own little brew up, and turbocharged cars were notorious for doing that. They'd fit wider than normal tyres on the car. Rules don't allow us to fit fat tyres.
I mean, how much wider?
Well, it may be an inch wider.
Wouldn't anyone notice that?
Only if they were looking for it. It's happened occasionally. Things like lightweight bodies. You could have a motor car which looks just like that Sierra does there, but it can be 40 or 50 kilograms lighter.
Have you ever been even mused about the thought over the years of just pushing the rules just a bit?
Now, look, to be perfectly honest with you, I prefer to win and win knowing that I didn't have to bend the rules. To me, that gives me the greatest satisfaction. I've driven around at different times, driving against cars, knowing full well that car's a bit dodgy here and there, and thinking, well, I'll beat them anyway. Yeah. And that drives them crazy.
You have, I would say, been responsible for very few accidents in recent years, but I'm intrigued as a viewer again. When there is an accident, what is the protocol when you get back? Say you caused an accident. Do you pay the other people to fix the thing up, or do you apologise? Do you give them drinks? How does it work?
If you're smart, you buy the beer, I'm sure of that.
But what do you actually do when you get back?
Well, I think there's a lot of R&J going on, rationalisation and justification. I didn't mean it, checks in the mail, the foot slipped off the brake pedal, it backed into me. I mean, there's all horrendous excuses start off, but at the end of the day, I think that protocol would be go and have a talk with a guy to explain, well, that's motor racing, I got a bit carried away, or I didn't really mean it. But it certainly is something that does occur occasionally. It doesn't create any good feeling. Yeah. And I've seen some rifts go on for years between some of the more aggressive guys, and I've never had trouble with them. Yeah. I mean, people talk about, say, Alan Moffat and Alan and I never really ever had any problems with fender bending or crashing. But if you were to say to Moffat, well, what about, well, harking back to the days when Bob Jane raced, or even Alan Grice and people like that, he would say, wow, Peter. Now, on the subject of the old days, you seem to have half the number of cylinders and been doing very well. I want you to have a look at this vision and tell me after it what they remind you of. What were you thinking when that was happening? That's a damn good feeling, actually. We had a pretty ordinary year. I'd had a lot of practice. That was 1987, yeah. And that was the race I drove in the Commodore at Bathurst, it was very much a privateer effort, and I know that the team were as close as you'd ever get a racing team to be, because we had our backs to the wall, and those last few laps, funny enough, you could hear the crowd. The crowd up there, the crowd just cheering, and I was going around there giving a bit of a wave, to be honest. We do that. Oh, that was good, yeah. And I was quite elated. And if you're feeling good in a car, and you can get the thing, you're confident, you can actually crank the car up sideways. You can see it coming through McPhillamy Park there at Bathurst with the tail out, which under normal circumstances, if I went up there tomorrow and drove around there and I did 5 or 6 laps, I'd say, oh, hang on. But the adrenaline's flowing, you're feeling good, you've been around there all day, and you say, I'm going to throw this thing sideways and just crank it up and give them a bit of a demo.
It is interesting how the car and you become like one human being. It is like a little human, isn't it? Because it's so often said that another driver is the best wet weather driver. I've spoken to a few people about that particular driver, and they've never seen anything like it. But isn't it funny how the journalists put a label? No one has ever said Brock is the best wet weather driver. But after that, it might as well have been dry. It didn't waver at all.
No, I was, you're in charge. But I mean, obviously, different sportsmen get different labels for various things. But amongst your own peer group, there's a general sort of pecking order, but it's not necessarily what the public perception is.
Now, we have a vehicle behind here now. I have no idea what you people do to suit. Could you explain me in a sort of succinct way to it? I'm not a very bright television person. What you do? Would you?
Yes, right. Well, first thing is you notice that it's a very low motor car, and obviously we fiddle with suspension fairly heavily. Under the bonnet here, well, as you said, a small motor. It's only a little 4-cylinder motor. It's 2 litres, turbocharger over here, electronics over here, and fuel injection. 540 brake horsepower.
That's a lot. It's almost an engine on wheels.
It's just incredible, the size of the car. Very sleek car. While we're under the bonnet here, we can see a lot of these bars and what have you that are part of the roll cage, which stiffen the whole thing up. So the body shell from the, say, it doesn't matter if it's a Holden, Commodore, or Ford Sierra, or a Nissan Skyline, you have to do a lot of work in these Group A rules and regulations to make them stiff enough and strong enough to stand the rigours of racing. Wheels and tyres, we're governed by rules that say you're only allowed a certain width tyre for a certain size car.
What sort of pressure do you run on these cars?
Oh, about 20, 22.
Oh, that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Isn't it strange?
Yes, funny about that.
Interesting, the world's coming back to the standards we've set. It's a few years ahead, you know. Things like lightweight magnesium wheels, which are obvious, quite expensive. These are actually made in Australia, which is great. We try to Australianise these cars wherever we can, both from a supply point of view and the fact that it's good for Australian industry.
Has it got power steering?
Mine hasn't, but what I've done is I've put a steering mechanism in it to give me the geometry to have it more or less assisted by the motion of the car. So the steering's a lot lighter than if it's done by steering geometry.
It's still pretty heavy though.
Very heavy.
You're going to be fit, aren't you?
It keeps you fit, yeah. I was out there on Wednesday, as a matter of fact, doing some testing at Calder, and I think I did probably about 100 odd laps, I guess, from the boys over there, yeah. And I came back and I knew I'd been out there a day's work, Robbo, and maybe I should get you in the car one of these days.
I'd like to do that, actually. I mean, funnily enough, there are a lot of people who won't drive with you. I've spoken about it over the years. I said, I drove with Bloody Brock. I'm not going to, he's mad. I like mad people. And I think that if we were to, run into a tree or something, that'd be a nice way to go.
Oh, Robbo, I've got this great aversion to pain.
Oh, right.
And I can assure you that I'm a very careful person. Yeah. Now, just quickly inside there.
Well, I don't want
sparse.
Yes, all right. Just quickly inside.
It's sparse, but it's efficient. And so many controls, Robbo, that honestly, I don't know what they will do.
And this helmet is new for the season on the roof, is it?
Yes, that's a new one. That's a new feature we've got for promoting a Brock Trailcraft, of course, isn't it?
I see. Well, Peter, we're actually running out of time, which is a shame because there's so much inside that's intriguing, and I'd love to be doing what you're doing. I know the grass is greener. I really would. I'd be good too.
I love it. You would be, Robert.
I would. I'm not joking.
You'd be good at the post-race activities, I think.
The women, you mean?
Women, or perhaps you could do a software routine, who knows?
Right, where are we now? Well, that's Peter Brock, and that's the machine for next year. I think some intriguing things ahead, and so there won't just all be Fords here, as there'll be Mr. Brock, I think, towards the front. Otherwise, I won't speak to you again. Good. Thank you, Peter, and we'll be back after this.